Hello and welcome to day 5. Jump into the action. Start with a 3-bet with the 7s. Flop a set. Great. Playing 10-0 today. Bankroll is at $130. So taking a 3 buy-in shot. Looks like he has a jack, so just gonna go for max value. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about today is the 3-betting strategy from the blinds. There's like pretty much two schools of thought for small blind 3-betting ranges. Some people only 3-bet or fold in the small blind, and for example against the button will 3-bet their entire range in the small blinds, because if you just cold call some hands and 3-bet some hands, you're splitting your range into two, making your cold calling range pretty weak and opening yourself up to getting squeezed by the big blind. On the other hand, if you 3-bet all of your hands in the small blind, you're setting yourself up to getting cold 4-bet or 4-bet by the button with a very wide range, and you'll have a tough time continuing. I used to be in the camp of 3-betting most of your hands in the small blind, but I changed up and now I'm basically just mostly 3-betting for value out of position and adding some good suited connectors into that range. King jack here, I'm just gonna fold. I would probably 3-bet if I was on the button. So I'll be 3-betting like either 9s plus, 10s plus, and ace queen plus, ace jack plus against the button for value out of the blinds. Obviously going bigger out of position because I want the lower stack to pot ratio. And adding some suited connectors for balance. I find it interesting that most of the questions I receive are about pre-flop play, and while pre-flop play is fairly important, your play on the later streets is gonna be much more important for your win rate. So I'm gonna refrain from now on from answering pre-flop questions, because I mean, you could be the best pre-flop player in the world, know exactly what ranges you need to open and 3-bet, but if you're not playing well on the turn and river, you're still gonna be a losing player or break even at best. So I want to be focusing on flop play, turn play, and mostly river play too. This is where I see most of the guys at these stakes making mistakes, is on the turn and river, by either not barreling enough on the turn and river, or by making bad calls on turns and rivers. Gonna check this. I don't think we get any value from a king at this point. And he could easily have a flush draw. That's just an easy fold. Whenever you see people at these stakes making overbets on the river, it's usually going to be the nuts. There's exceptions to every rule, of course, but if you're not a great hand reader and find yourself in a spot on the river where a guy overbets and you don't know what to do, just fold, and you won't be doing too badly. Ace-10, for example, you could 3-bet this, and that would be a fine strategy, but I'm gonna play smaller pots out of position, not put myself into too much trouble. Checks back the flop, so he probably has some showdown value. Question is if I can get him off of it. I'm gonna start with a check, see what he does. I might check raise the turn. And he checks back again. I could go for an overbet here, but I think I'm gonna get looked up way too often. So I'm just gonna check it and I'll probably lose to pocket sixes or something. He bets. I mean, you could go for a big check raise here, but I find that river check raises don't really work too well, even though most people don't check raise bluff rivers. It's kind of weird because even though most people don't check raise bluff rivers, a lot of people call river check raises pretty light. So you should basically, I mean, if you don't know too well how to play, and you're considering a check raise bluff on the river, just don't do it. Check back the flop, assuming he doesn't have a check. Assuming king queen or queen 10 would have bet the flop. So I think I have a profitable bet here. So if all goes well, I'll be playing 10-0 from now on until I get to about 300, 320, something like that, and then taking a shot at 16-0. Might take a shot at 250, I guess. Just keep taking aggressive shots until I get to 50-0. Ace-high board are generally good boards to check raise bluff on. You can rep all the 2-pair combinations. Ace-6 and Ace-3. Pocket 6s and pocket 3s. So, and people do see bet ace-high boards and have very high frequency. Gonna make a bigger 3-bet sizing out of position. Also, given that I'm 3-betting so often in position, my 3-bet stat will be pretty high. So if any one of these guys has a HUD and isn't using it too properly, they probably won't notice that I'm considerably tighter 3-betting out of position, and will be making a lot of calling mistakes and 4-betting mistakes when I 3-bet out of position. Once I get to 100 or even 200 NL, I might mix up my play. I mean, sometimes play a pretty tight style with a low 3-bet percentage, and then a very aggressive style with a high 3-bet percentage, high opening percentage, just to fuck up with the stats. Because at those level, a lot of these guys will have HUDs. Not opening King Jack offsuit under the gun, but definitely opening 10-8 suited. Yeah. I don't really like offsuit gappers that much. Offsuit connectors are fine, but I think people overvalue the offsuit gappers too much. I'm gonna go for a cold 4-bet. I mean, I don't know these guys, but I just want to make a funky play for the video. We'll see where this leads us. I mean, a lot of these guys at these stakes are 3-betting quite wide from the small blind against the button, but this was not the case here. So I get 8s, 9s, and 10s to fold if I bet this turn. Flushes aren't folding. Queen, Jack, King, Queen, Ace, Queen isn't folding. I'm probably gonna take my free card. I'm c-betting the King, Queen instead of checking back because I think I can barrel off an ace on the turn very often on this board. But now that we turn 2-pair, we just check it back. That's an unfortunate river. I don't think he's gonna believe we have a jack if we bet here. And he might still have a jack. Pocket fives is the bottom of my range. I mean, it's not in my range. I would open pocket sixes there, but not pocket fives. It's a bit tight, but especially at these stakes, I could have opened. It's not too big of a deal. Here we have an interesting spot. I think I'm just gonna go for the shove and rep ace king. I mean, I could 4-bet small, but I'm not gonna induce anything. And that's probably aces. No, ace king, sweet. So we win another stack. Just checking down my deuce here. Don't think he has too much. Now he's betting the river. I mean, if he wanted to bluff, he would have probably bluffed the flop or turn. Given that he didn't, probably has a king, like ace king. So I'm gonna fold. Probably should have 3-bet a little bit bigger out of position with the ace queen. Gonna barrel here. It's a good card for my range. Obviously, he could have ace jack too, but he can have so many weak kings and weak aces in his range. I can just bet over bet and get him to fold most of his range. I block queen 10 too. I mean, that was a spot where a lot of the guys at these stakes would have given up on the turn. Je fais une vidéo. Defending here with the jack 10 against the undergun. Pretty bad flop to do anything on. But he checks back, so probably has some sort of showdown value. Good overbet. I'm actually gonna try it. Ace-10 offsuit, I mean, you could open this hand, but I prefer to open it in the hijack and open Ace-Jack plus from early position. It's probably fine to open though. At these stakes. This is a board you could see bet, but I'm gonna start with a check. We get a caller. And now I'm just gonna overbet to get him to fold a 6. Might not work, but it does here. Overbetting is definitely something you should add to your arsenal if you haven't already. This is not the best turn to be barreling on, but can definitely get some 8s to fold, 7s, 6s. And I do have a lot of equity when called. King 8 suited, the bottom of my suited king range from the cutoff. Again, this is a board. I'm still gonna see bet it. Against more aggressive players, I might check it to check raise. And we got a suited connector here, which is gonna be my 3 betting range. I'm long betting this board because I don't expect to get a lot of c bets on this board, and it's definitely checking back with a 10 or a 9. It's an unfortunate turn. I don't think we can check call this. There's way too many queens in his range, and not gonna get a boat all too often, and probably not getting paid too much if I make my boat. Start with a check here. Plan is to check all two streets and reevaluate on the river. He didn't even value bet the river with his jack, which is pretty bad. Nines, you could cold call in this situation with so many players left to act. Or you could make a small 3-bet like I do to isolate the player, secure your position. Gonna check back this board. Check call here. Probably check folding turns. So I have no idea what his range is. As you can see, I mean, he made the small 3-bet against me, and I'm in a tough spot here. I can't really do much about it. This is annoying. He's gonna have a lot of ace highs in his range, so I don't think I can get him to fold at this point. I guess I could have gotten him to fold that, but not. I mean, there's way more ace highs in his range than pocket tens, and yeah, it's pretty much the only hand I was gonna get to fold. Here I'm gonna squeeze. I like squeezing in the situation where the small blind cold called, because we have position on him. Don't need to bet too big on this kind of board texture. Looks like he has a pair of 8s, 9s. Question is if we can get him off of it by the river. Could have a hand like Jack 10 suited, Ace 10 suited, King 10 suited. I don't think we're gonna get this guy to fold, so I'm just gonna give up. I'm gonna check here with the Jack 10 suited because the guy behind me could still have a lot of queens in his range. But he checks back, so, and there is a queen on the turn, so pretty unlikely anybody has a queen. At this point, if it's check to me, probably gonna go for an overbet. Looks like we hit the 30-minute mark. Gonna squeeze the ace jack here. And close down the tables. This is a pretty bad board. So I'm gonna start with a check. I have a lot of pairs in that range. But it checks through. So don't expect to see too many pairs now. So I'm just gonna bet it. I'm gonna snap call. It's very interesting. I actually expect it to be mostly a flush draw. Could be a flush draw with a 10 in it. Could be just a weaker flush draw. So I'm just gonna shove. And he had 2 pair. That's unfortunate. Probably if he didn't river the 9, he was folding, but we'll never know. So yeah, see you tomorrow.